Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, where you get information that you can use. I'm your host, Ida Crawford. But before we get started, subscribe to Just Minding My Business on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use. Victor Lagos, mortgage broker, property investor, and host of Debt to Financial Freedom podcast. Victor is a distinguished mortgage broker and seasoned property investor with over a decade of financial acumen. Commencing his career at age 19, Victor's expertise lies within residential and commercial property finance, SMSF property finance, and diverse business loans. Welcome, Victor. I can't wait to dive into this. 19. So you started really early.
I did start early, yes. And just for context, I am now 37, so that's 18 years.
Wow. So I have to ask, at 19, how did you get involved with this? Who got you involved?
Yeah. Look, I kind of fell into it, to be honest. After school, I started working for a supermarket chain, and I did that for a couple of years. Worked my way up into sort of somewhat management, second in charge, and I got out of that right before I was 19. Decided to do some traveling, and then I came back and realized I'm actually pretty good on a computer, and I want to get a job in an office. And I just started applying online for different jobs, and an agency was able to get me an interview for a financial institution in customer service. So I used my experience working in retail and customer service to help me get that job. And yeah, that was for a non-mortgage bank. That was in 2006, before the GFC. And yeah, I learned a lot through that, and I've stayed in financial services and lending ever since.
Wow. Wow. So, Logos Financial. Tell us about that?
So Lagos Financial is a business that we specialize in property investment finance and lending. So as a broker, we basically were an intermediary between the customer and the banks and other lenders and financial institutions. We basically help facilitate getting the loan approval, the most ideal loan for the clients, with the right structures that are tax effective. And we have different types of lending and different types of customers, but typically, mum and dad wanting to buy, their first residential investment property, to more sophisticated investors that want to buy commercial property. It's a bit more specialized, higher value, um, and they need sort of a bigger team around them. So we help facilitate a lot of that, introduce them to the right contacts, whether it's specialized accountants, lawyers, planners, and we basically navigate that whole thing for them and help build their wealth and really create financial freedom for our customers.
Wow, that's awesome because a lot of times, you know, you don't really know if you don't really know how to get a loan, you will be denied.
Yeah, and sometimes you can get a loan, but it may not be the right type of loan, right?
Yes.
Or you might end up getting a loan that's way above your means, and you haven't set up certain safety buffers in case things go wrong. You can't really anticipate that, and you get excited and you want the house, and then things can fall apart. And yeah, I really try to help my clients foresee things, even if it may not be the ideal situation, but so that they don't end up losing because they had to sell because they can't afford.
Yes, absolutely. And this is for investment homes. Uh, do you also work with people buying their first house? Uh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I guess I've had a lot of experience working with first time buyers as well. I'm a first time buyer. I've bought property, of course. My wife and I have bought property as well, and there's a lot of moving parts to buying property, not just the lending part. And first time buyers are they're typically a bit more scared
Yes.
in terms of getting into the market. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's my focus. Our business is definitely more targeted towards the investors. But of course, when you do a good job for clients, they typically refer their friends and their family. And a lot of them are first home buyers. And, I still enjoy helping them out. And I just have to remind myself not to talk a bit too more about advanced strategies and focus more on the basics. Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Because I mean, that first time, we've all been a first time buyer if we own a house, and it's scary.
It
It's a
is.
30-year commitment. Uh, I mean, you can do 15, but most people do 30. Uh, and you can rest assured there's going to be a lot happening in your life within 30 years.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And, that's the reason why I chose to focus on investors because I know that a lot of people just get out a mortgage and they stay paying it for 30 years. But if you don't have any form of wealth creation or strategies to help you pay that loan off faster, then you are going to be paying interest for 30 years. And that's a lot of money. It,
Hmm.
it accumulates, the compounding effect works against you and you end up paying probably more than double the price that you bought that property for.
Hmm.
So I teach strategies on how do you actually pay that off faster, and by accumulating additional properties, you can also get multiple streams of income, and you can redirect that income to help you pay off your mortgage, or you can use properties that are going to grow in value and intend on selling them to pay off your mortgage faster. So it's all interconnected.
Hmm. Absolutely. Wow. A little bit about money management and your self-esteem. Uh, how do they connect?
So I guess self-esteem is obviously something that we all have to work with.
Mhm.
There's things that happen in life that sort of knock us off our path or damage our self-confidence and our self-belief. And for me personally, it's been a journey of always checking in with myself and finding different, um, you know, people to learn from, whether that's online mentors or different coaches. Self development is so important when you're on the journey as an investor and as a business owner and as a podcaster. You have to really make sure that you're staying congruent with your true self and being authentic to who you are. And we all have fears, worries, and concerns, but I
Mhm.
think it's more about having more convictions and more self-belief so that those fears and concerns don't continually hold us back but instead propel us forward. And your other question was, how does it tie into
Money
money
man.
management?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's an interesting part about money. There's four pillars that we need to learn on the journey of wealth creation and really just money. It's one is, how do you earn money? Nobody really teaches you this at school, right? They teach you how to be basically a good employee, but that's not how you earn money. That's how you get a job, which some people say it stands for just over broke. Uh, and so you need to learn how to earn money, and that's whether it's in business, whether it's in sales, whether it's um, upskilling to high value skills, and increasing your value to the marketplace. There's a lot that goes into earning money. That's the first pillar, and the second one is to be able to keep money. Right, that's such a fundamental piece that we're not taught. We're programmed conscious like all the time in every angle to spend money, right?
Yes.
To go out and compare yourself, to the Joneses, to get the latest iPhone, the latest car,
Mhm.
electric vehicles. Social media is always showing you what other people have, and you want that. So everything's all about spending it. So it's great that you can earn it, but if you don't know how to keep it, then you're left with not much. And
Mhm.
that in itself is an ongoing journey, and I'm also going through that, like, because I enjoy spending too, right? We all do.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
yeah. And then the next one is to manage money, which is what you just talked about. And once you know you can keep it, you need to manage it well so that you're not just looking after your current self, but also your future self.
Yes,
And that's the
absolutely.
ability to save money and put money aside for different purposes, emergency funds, whether it's just your day-to-day spending and even just your bills, right? And being able to live within your means, right? Spend less than you earn. When you have, it sounds so simple. So how do you spend less than you earn? Like, how do people spend more? Well, when you have access to credit cards
Mm,
or buy now, pay later, or personal loans or pawn shop loans or cash. There's so many payday loans. There's so many different types of finance. Even borrowing money from family and friends, like people do that, right? It's a thing because they've spent more than they earn. And and so once you can realize how do you manage your money well enough so that you always have surplus, you're always only spending less than you earn and putting the rest aside, right? That's the whole point about saving. And then the last pillar is how do you then multiply your money? How do you grow your money? How do you invest it? All right. Because
yeah.
obviously, once you've managed it, you've been able to accumulate some and needs to go some, and needs to work for you. Your money needs to work for you so that you're earning money even when you sleep. All right. That's the fourth pillar.
Absolutely. Wow. That is you just hit it in a nutshell. Everything we need to know is very difficult to it's a discipline thing. And once you can really discipline yourself in those four pillars, then you on your way. So how do you help investors do that?
So I guess it depends on what stage that they're at and how how well they manage their money already and how financially literate they are. So I guess I try to understand that first, and then their uh, attitude to risk, or their risk tolerance, or their risk profile. That's a big part. I personally have a high risk tolerance, so I can take risks when it comes to money, which that's something I need to hone in, and my wife helps me there. And I find that a lot of investors have low risk tolerance. So I guess that for those types of clients, I then set up the right structures where we don't stretch their borrowing beyond their comfort zone, right?
Mhm.
Because having too much debt can frighten people, right? It's like, oh, now I owe all this money, and this is where the education comes into it. So, for example, if you own your home and it's say worth $1 million, technically you could borrow up to $800,000
Mm,
and not have to pay any additional fees to the bank, what's called lender's mortgage insurance. But if you only owe 400,000 and you now feel like you're doing really well, you're able to pay your home off. And if I say to you, you can borrow 800,000, you're now doubling your debt. So some people focus on the fact that they're going to owe 800,000, and now they think, oh, I don't want to owe 800. I only want to owe 400. I want to pay it off. But if you structure it correctly, you can keep your 400,000. That's owner occupied home loan or personal debt. That's fine. And then you split the loan and have another 400,000 as investment, and you structure that as interest only. So then you don't have to make any repayments and you have access to the equity. So now the equity in your home is not lazy equity. It's not just sitting there doing nothing for you, saying, "Oh, look, I my value of my property is great," but now you have access to 400K of liquidity of cash. So now you can invest it in income generating assets. So that's the part that's important, is that if you're going to pay interest when you draw that money out, you need to invest in a vehicle that's going to earn more than the interest you pay,
mm, wow.
right?
I like that. Now, do you help your clients find stuff to invest in to help them with that part of it?
So what I realized is that I should focus in on the skills that I'm good at, and that is finance, lending, structuring, and strategy. I leverage other people's experience who are good at what they do when it comes to property, right?
Mhm.
When it comes to other vehicles to invest in. So because I predominantly focus on property, for my clients, then I have got contacts that I introduce my clients to that
Mhm.
are like me. They operate from high integrity, ethical. They charge fairly. They actually are responsive. They're good at what they do, and they can actually locate areas to invest in that have more likelihood of growth. There's a lot of data available, but some of it is actually quite expensive.
Mhm.
So I've got contacts now. It's taken me, about 10 years to find good people in this space that can actually source property for a fair fee, for a fair cost to my clients, that will outperform the market, that will give them access to property that other people or the majority are unaware of
Mm.
before they become aware of it. So then they can then manufacture growth short term, and then have you know fundamental reasons why that property will grow, continually grow over time. And then when it comes to cash flow, they can also look for different properties, such as commercial property, that's going to generate a higher return on income rather than capital growth.
Mhm.
So it's just about understanding clients' needs, their goals and objectives, their risk tolerance, and the time frame in which they need to achieve it. Right? They might be
Mhm.
like me in their mid 30s, so they've got more time to take some bigger risks and to not need the income to live off of. And then you have someone who's maybe in their 50s that doesn't have as much time, and then they're not going to be working as long, and maybe don't have access to as much capital, so they need to be a bit more conservative and maybe focus more on a asset that's going to generate more income, so they're not carrying a lot of debt leading into retirement.
Yes. Wow. So if people want to work with you, how do they do so?
So typically they will go to my website, which is lagosfinancial.com.au,
Mhm.
and they will click either they sometimes they'll actually book directly, will start the application process. So I have different buttons on the front page where they can get some different loan options and sort of progress it themselves. Or if they'd like to talk with myself or someone in my team, they'll book a call, and they'll have access to a calendar, and then they'll have a Zoom call or a phone call. And this is more of a discovery to understand where they're at, understand their income levels, their debt levels, and see what's possible. And then from there, we guide them through the process.
All righty now. Okay, your podcast. Let's talk about that. And what's the name of your podcast again?
It's called Debt to Financial Freedom,
Okay.
right? And it basically summarizes what I was talking about. It's how do you get from debt to financial freedom? Like in America, I know it's very common for people to have student loans, right?
Mm.
And also credit cards. It's a big problem in Western countries because how do you repay this debt? And so the idea of financial freedom sometimes is so elusive because people are stuck thinking I'm going to be in debt forever, can't even afford to buy a home, and therefore I'm going to just focus on traveling or whatever it is, right? And then or living out of a tiny house and traveling around the country or whatever it is. But there's only so long you can do that. Eventually, you do want some type of stability, and you want to have a home, and you want to have somewhere that when you grow your family, they can come back to,
Yes.
and be able to have more time and not have to work. You want to work because you want to work, not because you need to work, right?
Yes, absolutely. That's a big difference.
Yeah,
Sure.
I guess the podcast is to show people that there is a way to do that, and there are people living that way, and there are people who started with a lot of debt, like myself. When I was 20 years old, I had more than $20,000 worth of credit card debt,
Wow.
right? And it's been a journey, and I share, including my guests, we share sort of personal and professional insights and experiences to you know inspire the listeners to you know maybe take the little bits that make sense for them and apply it in their own lives,
Mhm.
and create a path for their own financial freedom, all right, and not be stuck in debt.
Yes, because that is a problem. And it seems like the credit card thing starts as kids. When kids are in college, they don't even have a job. And they're getting all of these credit card. You can get 10 grand, you can get
Mhm.
20,000 with no job. Really?
I didn't know that was possible in America, but here I remember I was 18 and they gave me a credit card, but I was working. I've never heard of anyone getting credit without an income, but
Yeah,
you
I
know,
mean, it seems I think they look at the student loan payments that they're going to get, and they kind of, oh, we can get a little bit of that or whatever. I don't know how they do it, but that's when they start targeting when you are right out of high school with really no experience. And if you didn't have parents that taught you about money and things like that, then you are a prime target to getting overloaded with credit card debt.
yeah. So I'll tell you from what I've learned through the journey, because I know how easy and how tempting it is to spend on credit card. I experienced
Yes.
on credit cards. I experienced it when I was 18, when I was able to get debt, and the bank gave me $12,000 straight away, and I used that money to buy a car, another one for a holiday. But this is what's called bad debt, right? Because
Hmm.
it's it's not income generating and it's not tax deductible. It's just basically money you. The way I've sort of framed it and makes sense to me, that's helped me change my mindset around it, is that every time you spend on credit card debt or any type of bad debt, you're actually stealing from your future self,
Mm.
right? And that's the feeling how I've been able to frame it, because think about this. You're buying it because you want the instant gratification. You want the emotion. It feels good to have it right now. But it doesn't last, that feeling. It probably lasts maybe 1 or 2 weeks before you just get used to whatever it is that you just bought, or your experience that you've just had is past and now you're in the next experience. So then your future self now has to pay the money, have a negative feeling, but the past self was the one that got to enjoy it. Right?
I like
You
that.
see? You like that? Yeah. So now, like, now I got to pay back. Thanks, past self. I got to deal with this now, and that might take months. And credit cards can take years to pay back. So that you're essentially taking years for only a small amount of time that you were able to experience that positive emotion. So then, if you flip it and say, how do I give to my future self? Well, this is what you talked about. It starts with like habits. All right. It's putting money away for your future self, even if it's small increments. Back in the day, they used to have what's called lay-by, where you don't get to take away the product until you've paid for it. I
Right.
like that. All
Yes.
right. Now you can take the product away and pay for it later. That's what's called buy now, pay later. So that's also training you to have instant gratification and steal from your future self. So you need to go back to the fundamentals and say, I want to give to my future self. Hypothetically, if you were saving, say, $100 a week, that's all you could afford, and you were buying, the next iPhone that was going to cost you $1,000, that means it'll take you 10 weeks to save up, right? But each week is actually feeling good because you're putting money aside and you're becoming more disciplined. You're spending less than you earn
Hmm.
and you're waiting, so the anticipation for that iPhone is building, and you're searching, and you're learning more about the features, you're learning about what you can do with it, you're seeing other people have theirs, but you're saying that's fine, they've got their iPhone, mine's coming, you see. And
Yeah.
then eventually you get your $1,000 and you go to the Apple store and you buy it, but you buy it cash and you
Yes.
buy it outright and you own it. All right. So now your past self has given to your future self. And guess what? Those positive feelings continue because now you've got the iPhone. You don't have any debt, right? And on top of that, you've created a habit and discipline of putting away $100 a week, which you can continue. You can now put $100 a week for the next thing. So now you say, I want to save for my first car. And you now increase that to 150 or 200 a week because now you've got the habit and the discipline of giving to your future self. You understand how it actually works. You put money forward and pay for things later, and that's called delayed gratification. And that's how you end up with the bigger stuff like investing in property because you need a larger deposit, right? For
Yes.
us to buy our first investment, we had to save like about $100,000, right? You can imagine the amount of discipline and habits we needed and to manage money to be able to save 100,000 with the cost of living as high as it is, but it is possible.
Yes, yes, and it makes sense. I love how you frame it. Because you're right. You go out and you get that thing on credit, you feel good for, let's say, max a week.
Yeah.
After that, the bill comes next month, and you're like, oh my God, the thrill is already gone for what you bought.
Exactly. That's right.
And
And,
now you got this
now you
debt.
gotta pay for it. Correct.
And it's
And you
going
gotta
to
pay interest on it. And now
yes,
you're looking at it saying, "Damn, this $1,000 iPhone, if you actually count it, it might cost you like 1,500 or 2,000 depending on the interest rate that you're borrowing at it."
right.
So, and another thing that changed as well is, so you just reminded me is that when you're paying a bill, you have a negative feeling. It's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I have to pay a bill," right?
Yes.
But that's not just debt. That's when you get your electricity bill, right? Your phone
Mhm.
bill, your what other bills do we have? Uh, I
Cell
said
phone
electricity.
provider.
Yeah, cell phone. Yeah. Um, even your rent, right? Yeah, if you're renting, you have to pay rent. So every time it comes in the mail or it comes in the email or however you get it, and you have a negative feeling towards it, that's actually you're actually unintentionally putting um, those emotions towards money and the exchange. Because at the end of the day, money is energy. So you're just exchanging energy, money, which is you've traded your time for it, and now you're getting a service. So, but think about it. If you're paying for electricity, you're getting power to your home. If you're getting rent, you're getting a shelter for you to live and to sleep and to have warmth away from the weather. So why are you having a negative feeling? Because you're getting something great from it. You're getting something in exchange for what you're paying for. So
Yes.
so then so another way that I've changed is I've started to I actually had an app and I still do it to this day where I track my bills and I put it into an app where between paydays. So say I get paid today, the app will show me what bills do I have between now and my next payday, and
Mhm.
then I make sure that I have enough money in my bank account to cover that, right? To always have enough to cover the next bills. And then when I pay my electricity or my rent or my other bills, the app lets me tick it. All right. So there's like a tick paid. So now there's a positive feeling. You see, it's a dopamine hit.
Yes. I like
You see?
that. I
You
like
like
that.
that? Yeah.
Yes, because our mind, how we think about things, how we respond to things matters.
Yes, it does.
It matters. And I like how you frame it, in order to make a more positive experience for yourself. Because certain bills we have to pay. We don't have a choice.
Exactly. That's right.
So making that experience positive makes the spend better.
Now you become magnet. You start attracting more money because you have money wants to go to people that know how to use it,
Yes.
people that appreciate it. All right.
Yes.
Money's energy. It's the largest form of energy, collective energy that we have. We all have a collective agreement about what money is, but different meaning to everyone about from the experiences. So if you imagine the people that have a lot of money, they're typically positive about money. They're not negative about it. How do you expect someone who's negative to attract it? They're going to
Right.
repel it, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So if you're positive about earning it, you're positive about managing it, keeping it, and multiplying it. Well, you're a magnet. You're going to attract more and more of it.
Wow. Absolutely. Victor, this has been, I've never heard terms that you have brought to us today. I love it. And I'm going to steal some of them because
No, no, it's my
just,
gift. You're not
yes,
stealing it. You're
it's,
receiving. You give
yes.
and you receive. That's how the universe works. Yeah.
So again, how do people connect with you? How do they connect with the podcast? Because you're bringing some really, really great energy right now, and I'm loving it.
Honestly, like most of my clients are based in Australia. So if you're in any other part of the world, the best thing you can do is just follow me on the socials. So you can find me on YouTube. Just search up Debt to Financial Freedom. You'll find the video versions of all my podcast episodes. You find me on LinkedIn, Victor Lagos, or my company, which is Lagos Financial. You'll see a lot of valuable content that I share. And if you are someone that has access to capital and income, and you're wanting to invest in Australia, I do have options for foreign investors as well. So you can borrow money from an Australian institution and up to 80%. So all you need is a 20% down payment plus costs, and you can invest in Australia. And you can, potentially get an asset that's going to be able to cover most of those interest costs. If not, it will grow to a point where you're going to multiply it and be able to clear that debt anyway and still get a return. If that's something you're interested in, you can go to my website, which is lagosfinancial.com.au, and book a call with my team.
Wow. So thank you so much, Victor. I'm definitely going to check out your YouTube channel, and I am looking forward to implementing the new framework I had received
I
from you.
love it.
So
Yeah, I'm really happy I was able to explain it that way. And yeah, I really hope you and your listeners can apply some of that and improve your lives for the better and get you on the path to financial freedom.
absolutely. And who doesn't want financial freedom? It's
Yeah,
just going to
we
take
all want.
work and discipline, but everything
It's
does.
worth it.
And it's worth
Exactly.
it.
If
Absolutely.
it if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, but
Absolutely.
it's worth it. Thank you, Ida. I
Definitely.
really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you as well. And thank you, audience, for tuning in.